So short of a complete series reread, what do you do to pass the time while you wait for the final book in a trilogy to come out? You just talk about some characters that you like, and that's what we're going to do. Hello, howlers and bookworms, and all those who might have an interest in one day reading Pierce Brown's Red Rising Saga. I am Mike, and today we're going to talk about some of my favorite characters within that saga. If you don't know what the Red Rising is about, a while back I did a video called Why You Should Read Red Rising, and it's kind of something that I've become a champion of because there are still far too many viewers of this channel who have not given Pierce Brown's badass series a try because they have some kind of preconceived notions that it's for 12-year-olds, and I don't know where that came from. But again, I talk in that video about why I think you should read that, obviously, so I'm not going to rehash that a bit here, but I do want to say this video will have no spoilers outside of just like character names and maybe their rank, because I still want people to pick up this series that haven't given it a chance yet. This is a series that, like I said, I feel like a champion of because I can't quit talking about it because it's just such an underrated series. And it feels weird to say that because it's very popular. Pierce Brown's not exactly hurting when it comes to book sales. But I don't feel like there's enough people, like I said, that watch this channel that will give it a chance because they have this idea about it that really isn't what it's about. So I want to gain your trust by talking about these things. Now, this new series that I've created is called Favorite Most Hated. And I'm going to talk about either like my favorite characters or my most hated characters in the series. So far, all I've done is my favorite characters for A Song of Ice and Fire. I did that right there in case you are curious as to kind of the format that I'm going here. Like I said, it's not a ranking or anything like that. I'm just going to talk about some characters and why I love them. And pretty soon I'll be doing one of my first most hated. And I'm not going to tell you guys what series that is because I think it'll be a nice surprise to talk about my most hated characters. Now, again, I'm not going to talk about their achievements or nothing. Just kind of some reasons why I think these are the kind of characters that if I was in this fictional universe, I could go get a beer with them and shoot this shit. And I'm going to kind of talk about that now. So when Book 6 has a release date, guys, the plan for Red Rising on this channel is I'm going to do a complete reread. And what I'm going to do is he says Book 6 is coming out in June of 2022. Well, then in January, we're going to do Red Rising. February, we're going to do Golden Sun, and so on up, leading up to the release of book number 6 in the series. So full retrospective, my first real re-reviews on the channel, because I have reviewed just the first 3 books on the channel. But again, that's when the channel was in such a fledgling state. I didn't really even have a format for my reviews yet. But now that I've rambled for 3 minutes, and I'll have someone complaining about that in the comments, let's go ahead and get into some of my favorite characters within this universe. And I'm going to begin, obviously, because, I mean, you're not going to get very far in this series if you don't like the Reaper, Severo Albarca. I think the thing with Darrow is because it's in first person perspective, and that's something that I struggle with sometimes, is you kind of get this idea when you first start reading Red Rising that, wow, this guy is just the perfect person. He's just practically perfect in every way. He's both. He's Ray Skywalker. He's just perfect in every way. This is like Mary Poppins. He's always the smartest person in the room. And then I started thinking about it as the series went along. I'm like, is he though? Or is it really that thing of when the series starts, Darrow is like 17. And think back to when you were 17. If you are 17, I apologize to break this news to you. You think you know everything. No one can tell you anything the wiser. So again, something I struggle with in first-person narrative is grasping if it's an unreliable narrator or not. So I think with that, I kind of grew to accept certain things in that first book. But after that first book, Darrow, he'd be fucking up a lot. So you can't really call him Mr. Perfect in any way. So I think what I just like about him is over the series is watching him grow from just an idealized youth to a true leader and realizing sometimes you have to make those tough decisions, and they are never easy. And, like I said, you get this idealized notions about the ways that things it should be. And then when you get them, you kind of realize, I can kind of see where my predecessor was coming from now, because this ain't easy. So it's something that I think is a real growth. Obviously, if you're going from his teenage years to his 30s in this series here, you're going to see, yeah, he changes. The reader's going to change along with him. And you see that everything's not quite the way that you looked at everything when you were a teenager. You can kind of look back on things and be like, yeah, I was very naive and ignorant. And I think there's a lot of that with Darrow through this series. A lot of growth, and it's just an amazing character arc. And he has some of the most amazing lines in any series out there. Let's move along to his partner in crime. We're talking, of course, about the Goblin. This is Severo Albarca. I don't think that there is anyone who doesn't like Severo. I think the friend that first got me into reading this series, and I won't lie, I was kind of, you can watch that review of Red Rising right here, where I was lukewarm on it. I was just like, I don't know, I just think I went into it wanting something else, and it wasn't quite what I wanted. But I remember when I was texting him, telling him I wasn't really enjoying it, but he's like, well, what are you liking? And I told him, well, I like Severo. And he's like, well, look, if you didn't like Severo, you might as well just go ahead and DNF the series, because Severo is just like everyone's favorite. There's a reason why Severo is probably the most popular candidate from the series to have his depictions made on DeviantArt, because he's just such a popular character, such a fun character. I really feel like with him, Pierce Brown was able to kind of write his own teenage self into the story. And if that's wrong, I apologize, like Pierce Brown is ever going to watch this. I feel like this is a case of writing yourself in the novel. The banter that he uses is kind of stuff that you would say. It's very immature, it's very crass, and it's very hilarious, because, I mean, it is. Ass and dick and fart jokes are always going to be funny to guys. So there's a reason, like I said, he's very popular amongst the fandom. I don't really have a lot to add, except just like every time you think, yeah, he's just the class clown, he'll do something, you'd be like, oh, but he's a bad motherfucker too. And Severo will surprise you in many ways of doing things that must be done. And sometimes it can seem a little brutal, but I just look at it as, yeah, he's not afraid to get his hands dirty. He's going to do what needs to be done, especially for those that he loves. Let's move along here to Lorne Al Arcos, Stone Side. This is the former Rage Knight. I think what I liked about him is just that case of the, kind of jaded tutor, if you will. The guy that you just think has seen it all, and he just doesn't care about what's going on in the galaxy now. He just kind of wants to live out his years, and he keeps finding himself reluctantly getting involved. Imagine a very, very grumpy Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's kind of how I look at him in this series. But just an awesome character, shows zero remorse for anything that he's done and anything that he will do going forward. He gets stuff done, and it's almost always brutal with the way he does it. But again, just the ever badass. I don't think that there's anyone who can see him and not think, that's just like the coolest cat. Everybody wants to be like this guy. Even if he is, like I said, kind of old and washed up, he's still, he's still got that, he's got a sharp razor, let's put it that way. And I don't think there's anyone really who doesn't like old Stoneside there. Let's talk about Rogue Out Fabii. I like this character. Now, this is a character I think that probably the first one where you might get conflicting narratives. Some people really love him, some people don't. I think what I like about him, they call him the poet of Deimos. And he is very much a poet, a Renaissance man, if you will. And I think it's, even Darrow, I believe, he describes him as, he's what a gold should be. He's cruel and calculating and cold, and he does what needs to be done. Even if he can understand what things are like for those low colors in this series, he's still going to do, things that are supposed to be the way that they are. But I think if there's anything he brings this series, is he's a real intellectual. And that is a really interesting way to kind of be a contrasting force to Darrow through this series. It's just some of the things, like some of my favorite moments in that original trilogy are just scenes with Darrow and Rogue talking to each other. It's just some of the best stuff, especially some of their conversations with Morningstar. It might be my favorite part of that entire book, was just their conversation. And if you've read that book, you know exactly what scene I'm talking about. It's just so good. So, like I said, I know that he's kind of divisive amongst the fandom, but I love him. I thought he was a great contrast to Darrow, and I love their moments together. As much as a divisive one here, Cassius Al Balona, I don't know if he really had a nickname in the series. I think everyone just called him Handsome. I mean, the girls called him Handsome, and the guys kind of like degrading. Okay, handsome, I don't know. Apparently he is a very attractive man. This happens sometimes in the galaxy. But I really love the whole Brotherhood and then Brotherhood Broken story with him and Darrow. Obviously, it's just kind of the leading force of this trilogy. It really is. I mean, there's the overarching goal that they want to get to, but really it's their rivalry that really makes those early parts of the first couple of books tick. And it's, while I said I went back when I went through it the first time, I said I felt like, it kind of popped off a little too early. I wish it had been a little longer. In hindsight, I think it's perfect just the way that it is, especially when you know what comes later on in the series. So again, a character I think might be kind of divisive. I don't know. It depends on how far you've read in the series. Let's just put it there. But I think that Cassius has so many layers. And I just, one of those characters I just want to spend more time with, because I want to know more about him, and I want to know answers to questions that I still have in the series about him. Let's put it that way. But there are many questions that are still left unanswered that I will be talking about once the series has concluded, and hopefully he concludes Cassius in a satisfying way, because I like where he's at right now, but it could go one way or the other. But again, I don't know. That one might be kind of divisive. The other one won't be. I think this is almost a unanimous pick, and that is, of course, the Prince of the Spires. I'm talking about Ragnar Valaris here. Now, anybody that watches Vikings knows that Pierce Brown was obviously very clearly watching Vikings or The Last Kingdom or something like that and said, you know what? How do I write this into my series? He already had that nice Roman aesthetic for this series, but then he throws in some Viking Norse stuff, and it fits just so well. And Ragnar is a character just from go that I think everyone just becomes endeared to, the gentle giant, if you will, of the series. And I almost feel like he kind of plays Darrow's conscience a couple of times. Darrow trusts him implicitly. He trusts him a lot faster than he trusts a lot of other characters, especially with his big secret. So it shows that he becomes like his confidant, but he also becomes like his right hand. And he's just such a cool character. Has some of the best lines in the story, and even if they're where it's like Darrow's leave you like ready to run through a wall and fight for him. With Ragnar, the lines are just like, yeah, that'll work. Romulus Al, that is the arch-governor of Io. This is a character I didn't think I cared that much, but he showed up so late in the original trilogy. And then there's a big storyline with him in Iron Gold. That's book number 4. And when it was going on, I was like, wow, I didn't realize I actually do really like this character. And it's a really, really good arc. I really can't say more without spoiling stuff, because like I said, Arch-Governor of Io, that's just where he starts. He goes other places in here. But I just thought it was really a good way of solar system building. I don't want to say world building, because we're hopping around the solar system here. Is it kept it from getting that problem like I have sometimes with The Expanse, where it can get just too much on Earth and Mars, and it won't really visit the rest of the solar system. This really kind of took us to that outer rim area and really got a lot of those things really kind of worked in the series that I felt like it was lacking, just helped expand it a little bit more. And that's why I think I like the sequel trilogy so much. I've had many questions of, I read the original trilogy, would I like the sequel trilogy? Absolutely. It's not just a tack on. It's a very, very good addition to the series, and I think that you'll like it if you give it a try. But at this point, if you've waited this long, I say go ahead and wait and read when book 6 comes out, and just read it together. But that's just me. That's what my wife's doing. I'm not jealous at all that she decided to do it that way. Let's talk about Apollonius Owl Valley Wrath. That's a fun one to say, isn't it? This is the Minotaur of Mars. And one of these where people were going to be like, whoa, he's kind of a dirtbag. Well, look, my favorite characters aren't always just the good guys, I think he is a brilliant foil with Darrow, and it really has a lot of that stuff, kind of what I said with my Dresden Files stuff, like when Harry and Marcone have to work together. Whenever Darrow and Apollonius have to work together, it's some of the best stuff in this series. And you feel like that tension's there the whole time, but they know they're working for a enemy of my enemy kind of thing. And it's fun times when they're working together, but it's one of those things where yeah, but there's no way that this is going to end between us without one of us, laying in a bloody pile on the ground, and you're just kind of waiting for those moments to happen. So really, it's just the partnership there, the uneasy alliance, if you will, between those two that make it a really, really fun time. Then we get into the Telemanus. Look, Pax Owl Telemanus, he doesn't need a nickname because he's just going to tell you his name over and over again, Pax Owl Telemanus. And it's just such a fun thing to say, Pax Owl Telemanus. I could say it all day. Really isn't in the series very much. but he's a character that leaves a lasting impression immediately. And then you get into Kavax, his father. Kavax, is it Kavax? Kavax? I don't really know. I don't care. Kavax Al. I love him because he's just like that father figure that Darrow is lacking, I think. I really think that he kind of plays that role. Even if it is more towards Lyria than it is Darrow in the sequel trilogy, he's just a really cool character. Almost like that, I said you kind of needed that, almost like that Viking influence. And he seems like the big, burly Viking kind of dad, even if he isn't an Obsidian. It's just kind of the idea that I get out of him. But I also like Sophocles, that's his animal companion, which you guys know I'm a sucker for. And any fox that has been cloned like 20-something times, because I would love, I know you guys, you lose your pets, and the idea of cloning them just sounds so neat. Never losing your pets because, their lifespans are so much shorter than ours. But I love that idea, and then he feeds it jelly beans. It's adorable. I don't know what else to really say about it. That one always kind of sticks to my memory. Another one that other people may not really care for, and it seems like maybe kind of a weird pick, and this is Magnus Algrimus, and that is the Ash Lord. And now this is a character you don't really see a lot of in the series, and you're like, well, how can you pick that? I think it's just because I like the idea, the history about what this guy does, why they call him the Ash Lord, just makes him so compelling. And when you finally do actually see him in the series, it's really, really memorable. But yeah, again, the lore that he builds in such a short time, with some of these characters who aren't even on the page very much, very, very rich and deep. And I love the history about the Ash Lord. And then I'm going to end this by talking about my favorite character in the series. No, it is not Darrow. No, it is not Severo. It is Victra Al Julii. This is my girl, you guys. I love this character so much. I'm not much of a shipper, but let's just say there is a big ship in this series, and I lost because I was shipping very, very different characters to get together in this series. And Victra is just, I don't know another way to say it. She's just a badass bitch, man. She will stab you in the heart while looking you in the eyeballs and feel nothing about it. She is ruthless, she is protective, and she is awesome. She kicks so much ass through this series. And it just gets better as the series goes along. She gets stronger and stronger and more awesome. She is the Buffy the Vampire Slayer of this series, in that she will kick your ass. She'll make a really badass line after she does it. And you're just like, even if she's just kicked your ass, you're just still sitting there kind of like on the ground going, respect, because she's awesome. That's if you have the ability to say respect. So again, I know this is tough to talk about without spoilers, but when I get into my spoiler talks, the plan is, guys, I'm going to do the review, non-spoiler like I always do, and then I'm going to do a spoiler talk for each book leading up to the release of Red Rising number 6. But I just kind of want to keep the content for Red Rising fresh on the channel before that happens, because I don't know, I was hoping it was coming out this year. I feel like we would have heard something by now if it was coming out this year. So my guess is it's going to be June of 20, because he released most of his books May, June. It's probably going to be June of next year is my guess on this. But if you haven't picked up the series yet, I really hope that you will. I'll put the link down below if you guys want to check it out. What I tell everybody is don't judge the series on book number 1. I don't think book number 1 is bad. You just might read it and be like, I don't see what's so special about it. If you get through book 2 and you still aren't feeling it, it might not be the series for you. For me, book 2 was my book of the year for 2020. So it's a book that I highly recommend. Actually, you know what? That was 2019, wasn't it? I get all my years confused now. Anyways, it's a very, very good book. Let's put it that way. But I hope that you will check out Red Rising. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. Drop on the Discord, drop in the comments, let me know. We got a whole conversation that never stops. A lot of howlers on the Discord that love to talk about this series. So I would like to know, besides why my picks suck here, I want you guys to drop in the comments some of your favorite characters from Red Rising. Hell, go ahead and tell me some of your hated characters. I think we all know who if you've read the sequel books, I think everybody's least favorite character is quite obvious. But anyways, drop in the comments there, guys, and I will talk to you then.